Month for the Department of Inland Revenue. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Just give yourselves a hand. You look so lovely. You're not like a family, honestly. People don't understand that you're from here. You don't understand that. So, we are here this evening. We are on a mission this year, the Department of Inland Revenue, to do everything within our power to assist, educate, and make sure that our clients, whether they are new clients just starting a business, someone dealing with their real property tax or their lot, they give us much assistance as we can to make sure that they have the help they need to go through this process. We know we had a lot of changes last year, and some persons are still intimidated by going through the website and different things, but that's why we have a number of our offices here in Exuma, and so what we're doing is we're going to each of the different islands to assist persons with the process of renewing their business license, starting the process, informing them about information about real property tax, and also the process of filing that out. Because that's one of the things that sometimes persons do get intimidated about. We are so happy to be here in Exuma tonight. The waters are beautiful. I a little bit biased because my roots from here as well, so don't mind me at the end of the day. I got a Luther blood running through me too, so I ain't ashamed about it. I call it different islands today because I didn't get inside that. But nonetheless, we thank you all for being here this evening. We're going to get started right now. We do humbly apologize for those that are tuning in via YouTube, just for getting some technical issues started. So I just want to open us with a quick prayer, and then I'll make an introduction to introduce our local administrator, who's just going to share a few words with you before we get started this evening. So could we all stand and just bow our heads and pray for them, please? Heavenly Father, I thank you for your grace and mercy, O God. I thank you for those that are here and those that are on their way. I thank you for those that are tuning, O God, via the internet. Father, let the information that is shared, O God, be clear, let it be edifying, and let it help those, O God, to have a better understanding of what they are trying to do. Father, we thank you because we know all things are done in decency and order by your grace and mercy. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Once again, thank you so much for being here with us this evening. So we're just going to have some opening words by Ms. Christian Palacios, our island administrator. Please let's just give her a hand as she comes in this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. What I call it, my colleagues. So this is a very busy place, so being here tonight took a lot of effort. But I recognize the Chief Constable, Davis, we have Carrie and Jessica, from tourism, we have West from NID, we have environmental health, Ministry of Works. Just want to say thank you all for being here and all of the local residents. I took the time to come out tonight to this very important meeting. You know, when it comes to Black people government revenue, everybody has an issue with it. I want to just thank Inland Revenue especially for taking the time out to travel all the way from Nassau to be here with us today. You know, this shows the commitment that the government has to support and empower local businesses. It's important for the success and growth of our community. And I'm sure that all of the local businesses here and aspiring entrepreneurs would be happy to get any information or to ask any questions pertaining to getting a business license or what they need to do, address any concerns concerning that, real property tax. And, I wanted to encourage all of you to take advantage of this opportunity and the expertise that are here today. We have a good team here, and I've been Exuma and Anglican, and I can speak to that because we work very closely together. With the administrative office being responsible for the letter of no objection. That many times when persons come to me and not having the relevant documents, I rely heavily on them to guide me with certain things, because a lot of times people will come to you and not tell you the full story. So you always have to have a good relationship with your colleagues just in order to make sure that everyone is compliant. And once again, to just want to encourage everyone to take advantage of this opportunity and don't leave here today without getting a clear understanding as to what it is that you need to know. You guys are going to be at the Alive building again tomorrow, right? Are you? But that the day was today. Oh, okay. Okay. So, but we have the capable team here at Land Revenue. A lot of people don't like coming to town meetings because they don't want to be seen in public asking questions. But once again, thanks for coming out, and thank you guys for being here.
Please give Ms. Palacios another hand, please. So we're also going to ask Mr. Glenn Davis, the Chief Counselor, to come and just give a few words of greetings. Like my bishop said, when you're visiting, you gotta always be ready. Give him a hand as he comes, please.
Good night, everybody. I'd like to also thank the state for coming here to explain the importance of inland revenue. Now, we encourage everyone to support them because the country needs revenue for its growth. So, thank you again. Good night.
Thank you so much, Mr. Davis. Brief and to the point. I'm with you. I'm with you. We'd make a good Anglican, Methodist, and Baptist all at the same time. So, to get us started off this evening, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be bringing to the podium Ms. Shandia Smith, who is going to speak on real property tax. She's going to be an overview. So, let me just give a few rules. Once the presentation is finished, we're going to give you probably about 5 minutes just to ask just a few short questions, because we want to make sure we can get through all of the presentations. And once we're done with all of the presentations, then you'll be able to ask questions at the very end. That's all right? Church, say amen? I hope they don't find me forgetting to Baptist in the place tonight. I say.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shandia Smith, and I represent the Real Property Tax Division as the Department of Inland Revenue. Or comprise of 4 units or less that are solely used as a dwelling and from which no commercial enterprise is conducted. It is also property that is not owner-occupied, comprising not more than 5 units exclusive of outbuildings beneficially owned by Bahamian citizens, a person who was registered under the value-added tax of 2014 for the operation of the property as a commercial rental establishment, and that it is solely as a dwelling place provided that where a person owns more than 4 dwellings that are not owner-occupied, each property shall be classed as commercial. Commercial property's definition is property used for business purposes and shall be deemed to include any property that falls within the proviso of the definition of residential property. Unimproved land or vacant land. Non-Bahamians pay on vacant land and land under construction owned by non-Bahamians are treated as vacant land.
Just let us know when you go into the next slide so we can keep on.
Sorry?
Let us know when you go into the next slide so we can keep
And the definition of unimproved land is property on which no improvements have been effected, property under construction unless the occupancy certificate has been issued or the property is occupied, and also does not include any property that is used to carry on any business activity. Do you know your assessment or parcel number? If or how your property is classified by the Department of Inland Revenue? Registration of a property. For a Bahamian individual or individuals, we require proof of Bahamian citizenship, that is your passport, a copy of your national insurance card, any stamped and or recorded deed of ownership, being a conveyance, deed of assent, deed of partition, or deed of gift. A site plan. A current appraisal is recommended but not required. Declaration or affirmation form. For an incorporated company, we require a certificate of incorporation, certificate of incumbency, proof of citizenship, national insurance card, stamped and or recorded deed of ownership, survey plan, current appraisal, and affirmation form. We have our types of forms. Declaration form, affirmation form, customer details form. We also have our inquiry form in the event a taxpayer wants to object or inquire on the value of the land. And our senior citizens discount form. How is real property tax determined? It is determined by a fair market value of the property. This is accomplished by collecting details about the property to calculate the replacement cost, which is obtained based on the dollar rate applied to the land and improvement. Property values are subject to change pending any improvement or changes to the property or based on any future reassessments of the property. The reassessment can be requested by the owner of the property or by law every 5 years.
Next slide.
Next slide. And did you know that real property tax is fully online? Next. Effective March 6, 2023, all Family Island real property tax declarations were accepted online only. Since February of 2024, all of Providence real property tax declarations are now accepted online. This is a look at our online portal. You can access our portal on our website, inlandrevenue.finance.gov.bs. This is where you will upload any documentation to register your property. After submitting a case online, the taxpayer receives an FID number, which serves as their tracking number throughout the whole process. This is a look at our chart as to once a case is submitted online to the end process. So the case is submitted, it goes through our administration department for review, then it is sent on to our mapping division to receive a code or an assessment number, which is your account number. Then it goes on to a desk assessor or a field assessor. Then it is reviewed again. Then it is sent on to our data entry department. And after data, if any tax is owing, it goes to the billings department. The billing will generate a tax amount, and the tax certificate is then sent out to the taxpayer. Did you know that you are responsible to notify the department of any changes to your property, whether you changed ownership or you made any improvements on your land? We also need, if you're updating a mailing address, you also need a letter from the taxpayer stating that your postal address. Did you know about our real property tax discounts? There are 3. First-time homeowners discount, senior discounts, and early payment discounts. The concession for the first-time homeowners exemption, RPT Act allows exemption from the payment of real property tax for a period of 5 years from the date shown on the occupancy certificate or on the conveyance. This applies to homes valued in excess of $300,000, but not more than $500,000, where the applicant occupies and resides in such property or exclusively as a dwelling house. Our senior citizens discount, you must be a Bahamian citizen, you must own the dwelling place, and you are entitled to the retirement benefit under the National Insurance Act or 65 years of age. So 50% discount on the first $1 million of the assessed value is given on the pensioners discount. Early payment. The bill must be paid on or before March 31st of the current year in order to receive the 10% discount. Did you know what properties are excluded from real property tax? Places used exclusively for religious worship, schools, and playing fields attached thereto, as well as properties used exclusively for charitable purposes, are exempt from paying real property tax. Other categories include crown land, other than crown land held under a lease, property occupied by the owner as his residence in respect of the first $300,000 of market value, unimproved or vacant land owned by Bahamians, improved property owned by Bahamians in family islands, and property used for commercial farming. Other categories continued: property of any foreign state used for the purposes of consular office or residence, example, the embassies, historical buildings registered with the Ministry of Finance, property of the Bahamas National Trust, property used exclusively for the purposes of charitable or public services from which no profit is derived, in accordance with the Real Property Tax Act, Section 102. The real property tax rates. If you occupy a home, the first $300,000 is exempt. The next $200,000 will be calculated at 0.625%, and the balance is at 1%. For commercial properties, the first $500,000 is calculated at 0.75%, the next $1.5 million at 1%, and the balance is at 1.5%. Residential rates, value up to $75,000 is a flat rate of $300. More than $75,000 is at 6.625%. Vacant land, the first $7,000 is $100, and the balance is calculated at 2%. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
My name is David B. Jumping for the family islands paying no real property tax. I would get excited for that. I'd give another hand just for that. All right. So since we don't have any questions at this time, we are going to have our next presenter, which is Mrs. Lakeisha Brown Johnson, who is the manager for our general processing at the Department of Inland Revenue, and she's going to go through the lovely process of talking to you about that thing we all love, VAT. VAT. Let's say it together, VAT. So let's just give her a moment and she'll get started. Give her a hand for me, please.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Lakeisha Brown Johnson. Like he said, I'm the manager for general processing at the Department of Inland Revenue. I'm so happy to be here to talk to you today about value-added tax. In my presentation this evening, I'll be talking about the basics of VAT, the formula that is used for calculating tax payable, or you could have a credit. I'll show you a VAT return, and we'll go over the steps for filing the VAT return. And finally, I'll show you the steps for submitting a return amendment. Give me 1 second, we're trying to bring up the presentation. Okay, so I'll get started. What is value-added tax? Value-added tax was introduced in the Bahamas in January 2015. It is a consumption tax that is paid by the final consumer. It is collected by VAT registrants and remitted to the Department of Inland Revenue. In January 2015, VAT was introduced at a rate of 7.5%. The rate was increased to 12% on July 1st, 2018. Then on January 1st, 2022, the rate was changed to the current rate, which is presently 10%. And you may have heard our Prime Minister announce that a new reduced rate of 5% will be implemented on non-prepared food items starting on the 1st of April, 2025. So what is VAT charged on? VAT is charged on goods and services that are supplied or sold in the local economy at a standard rate of 10%. It's also charged on imports at the standard rate of 10%. And it is charged on goods and services that are supplied in the local economy at a 0 rate for exports. Who can charge VAT? There are different types of registration that you can have. Taxpayers that are registered for VAT with the Department of Inland Revenue, we call those individuals or companies VAT registrants. Unregistered taxpayers, they are not allowed to charge VAT. Those persons or businesses, they are called TIN-only registrants. So here we have the different types of VAT registration. There is mandatory registration, which is when a person or business reaches an annual turnover in excess of $100,000. For that person or business, registration is mandatory, and the taxpayer is required to register for VAT. If a taxpayer makes less than $100,000, they are allowed to register, and it is optional. So we call those persons voluntary registrants. So listed there are the various VAT sections that speak to mandatory and voluntary registration and the threshold for registration. So you can go to the VAT Act and you can read up on those when you have some time. Okay, so when a person or a business registers for VAT, their department level and the filing frequency, which is how often they have to file the VAT return, that is assigned to them based on the amount of annual taxable turnover that they have. So taxpayers that make less than 5 million, they are assigned a quarterly filing frequency. Taxpayers that make 5 million and up, they are assigned to file on a monthly basis. Okay, another thing that is assigned at registration is the taxpayer's accounting method or basis. Now there are 3 different methods, and the method available to the taxpayer is determined by their amount of turnover. There is the invoice or accrual method, and this is available to taxpayers that make over $1 million in annual turnover. So for this method, the VAT is reported based on when the taxpayer issues bills or invoices to their customer, or when they pay for purchases. When they issue the invoice for that, then they would report that on their VAT return. The cash basis is different because it's available to taxpayers that make less than $1 million. And with this method, VAT is reported based on when there is a cash sale or a cash purchase. So that the cash basis is focused on when the taxpayer pays or receives cash. The invoice method is based on when they issue or receive an invoice. It's based on billings. So that's the difference between the two. And finally, we have the flat rate scheme, which is a simplification of the cash accounting basis. This is available to taxpayers that make less than $400,000. So with this method, they collect 10% from their customers, but the amount that they pay to the government is 6% of what they collect. So here are some responsibilities for the VAT registrant. You have on the screen a sample of a VAT certificate, and this should be prominently displayed in the business. Let me ask a question. How many VAT registrants are in the building tonight? 1? Okay. All right. No? Okay, so if he was a VAT registrant, his VAT certificate should be displayed somewhere prominent where everybody that walks in would be able to see it, okay? So I'm going to talk now about what the requirements for the VAT registrants. Apart from displaying your VAT certificate somewhere where everyone can see it, you are also supposed to use VAT inclusive pricing. You are supposed to issue valid VAT invoices and receipts to taxpayers. And you're required to have good record keeping, which means having proper accounts and records for your VAT. A taxpayer, they are responsible for making sure that they file and pay the amount of tax payable within 21 days of the filing period. And they are supposed to pay the amount, the tax payable to the government. Okay, this is the reporting method. The default reporting method is the standard reporting method, which is the return that has 27 lines. And the reporting method that a taxpayer gets, it's assigned at registration. If you meet the requirements for the flat rate, remember I went over it a little bit in one of the earlier slides, you would be allowed to sell your goods at the 10% and pay only 6.5% to the government. The flat rate return is a much shorter return. It only has 7 lines. And the requirements for flat rate again are that your annual turnover must be less than $400,000. You cannot be a port licensee. You cannot be a taxpayer that has been approved for a VAT deferral. You cannot have zero rated or exempt supplies or be a member of a VAT group. And you must not have any outstanding VAT or business license filings or payments. Okay, so let's get to the good stuff. How do we calculate our tax payable? This here is the VAT formula. So I'm going to start by defining the two terms, output VAT and input VAT. Output VAT is the tax that you receive or charge when you provide goods or services to your customers. In simple terms, it's the VAT on sales of taxable items. Input VAT, on the other hand, that is the tax that you pay on any expenses incurred for the furtherance of your business activity. So that can include imports, that can include local purchases or local utilities, any bills that you pay for your business, those would be considered input VAT. So you would have two amounts, one for output VAT and input VAT, and you would take those two amounts, subtract the input VAT from the output VAT to get a VAT payable. There could also be a situation where you have a VAT credit. If you have paid for the amount of input that you pay on purchases and imports, if it's higher than the amount of output that you collect for your sales, then you would have something called a VAT credit. Okay? So, next slide. Here we have an output VAT worksheet and an input worksheet. So remember, output VAT, that is output on an output VAT worksheet would be a listing of all of the sales that you have for the period, and the input VAT would be a list of your imported items, your local purchases, or expenses. So these two worksheets are what should be uploaded as supporting documentation when you file your VAT return. So now we're going to move on. I'm going to show you guys the steps for filing a VAT return using the online tax administration system. So this is the department's online tax administration website. It's www.bat.revenue.gov.bs. So you would visit that website and you would log on to your account. So after logging into your user account, this is the home page here. If you have multiple registered taxpayers, they would be displayed here, and you would have to select the TIN for that taxpayer to pull up the information for that specific taxpayer. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go over the menus at the top of the page here. Okay, if you select the inbox menu, it will take you to an inbox to show any open cases, and there's also an option there to send a new message. Then next you have the My Tax menu, which shows a tax account option, which shows all returns filed for VAT and business license. And under this menu, you can also submit a return amendment. We're going to do that a little bit later. Also in the My Tax menu, there's an option to make a payment for VAT and business license. And there's a payment history option, which allows you to see all payment receipts, and you can print a statement if you like. The profile menu allows you to make changes on the information on your account. for example, your address or your email. And the services menu has an option to request a refund or to register for a new tax type. Now we're going to start with the steps to file the VAT return. So we start by clicking on the returns menu, then selecting the first option, file a return. Next, under new return details, you will see that there are two required fields. They are highlighted by asterisks. And you have to choose the tax type, which would be value-added tax, and enter the year of the return that you're trying to file. Then you would move on to choose the period that you want to file by clicking Start Return. Notice that there's a list there of the returns that haven't been submitted as yet. So you are supposed to pick the period that you want to file the VAT return. Next, you click on the Enter Filing field to enter your return values. And you will note that the period that we selected is displayed right under value-added tax return. See, it has the April to June period. So I want to make sure that people pay attention to that, because that's a common error. When people file their VAT returns, they sometimes select the wrong period. So in the process of filing your VAT return, always double check, make sure you're filing for the correct period so that you won't have to do a return amendment. Okay, so now we are in the VAT return. This is the first section of the VAT return here. And let's use an example. Say I have a company and they had sales for the period of 100,000. Your VAT inclusive sales would be 110,000, right? So you were supposed to put the VAT inclusive amount on line 4, and the system would pull the amount of VAT from that amount and put it on line 5. So it would calculate that the output VAT should be 10,000 based on what you put on that line. And then moving on to the second portion of the VAT return. If you recall, I spoke about the input VAT. There are different types of input that you can have. If you imported things during the period, you would be using lines 12, 13, and 14. And those amounts would agree to the customs documentation that you have, which would be the single administrative document, the import invoice, and there should be also a payment receipt, which shows that the customs of the import VAT was paid. Okay, so let me use another example. Say I imported $10,000 of items for my business. I would put the landed cost of those items on either line 12 or 13. Now, the difference between line 12 or 13 is that line 12 is for a purchase of a capital good, which is a long-term type of asset, something that has a long, useful life. And so if I didn't purchase something like that, I would put it on line 13, because it would be classified as a operating input. So using that example, if I had a $10,000 item that I purchased, I would put the landed cost on line 13, and then the VAT on that $10,000 would be $1,000, so I put that on line 14. Okay? And the lines down below, they work the same way for domestic or local purchases. So if you purchase something in Exuma say you purchase $5,000 worth of items for the month of January. You would put the value of those purchases on either line 17 or 18. It depends on what you purchase, right? So if it's an asset with a long useful life, that would go on line 17. If it is not, then it goes on line 18. And the VAT on the purchase, if it's $5,000 worth of things that I purchased, it would be $500, right? So that goes on line 19. So when you have entered those amounts, the system would calculate what your total input VAT is and your output VAT is, and it would use those amounts also to calculate the VAT payable. So let's continue on now with our filing process. So we've entered our return values in the previous screen. So now here, we're going to upload our supporting documents. This is optional, but taxpayers should upload. It saves you time when you upload the support while you're filing the VAT return, because it's going to be requested anyway by somebody that's reviewing or auditing you. They will request the information. So remember, I showed you guys an output worksheet, the input worksheet, and the single. Oh, we haven't gotten to that slide as yet, but you would upload all of the support for that period, and this is where you would do it on this screen. Next, this is the final part of the return filing process. This is the step where you check the declaration to state that the VAT return is correct and complete, and you would click on the Submit Return button. Okay, so I was talking a few slides back about the single administrative document. This is prepared by customs when people import items. I wanted to mention here that make sure that you're reporting the landed costs of the item. A lot of businesses we see when we do return reviews, they use just the cost of the item, but you shouldn't be using the cost. You should be using the landed cost, which includes the price, the duty paid on the item, the processing fee, freight and insurance charges, and any environmental levies. So all of that, all of those costs that the taxpayer has to pay to bring the item here, that is the landed cost. So that is what should be reported on lines 12 and 13. Okay, so I thought it would be nice to have a little summary. So if you want, you can take a picture of that, which gives a summary of all of the different steps for filing the VAT return. And now I'm going to move on to the steps for amending a VAT return. Okay, if we're back to the home screen again, we signed in again, we already selected the registered taxpayer that we want to submit a return amendment for. Who knows what a return amendment is? No one? Okay. A return amendment is when you have to correct a value. You already filed the VAT return, but you have to correct one of the values that you previously submitted. So even when we do our reviews, we sometimes have to ask taxpayers to submit the return amendment because they put something, we noticed that something was incorrect. So this is the process for doing that. And taxpayers have a 1 year, up to 1 year, to amend a VAT return that they have filed. Okay? So we start by going to the My Tax menu, and we select the first option, which is the tax accounts option. And what is listed here on the screen, listed on the screen are all of the VAT returns that were filed over the past 12 months, because you're only allowed to amend returns that you've filed. You only have a 1-year period. So it would list all of them. And then we would click on the period that you would want to amend. And under options available, which is to your left, or to your right, sorry, my left, you will notice under options available there is an option to correct, amend this tax return. So you would click on that. Then you would click on amend filing. You click on amend filing. Under section to be completed, there's a little link there to amend the filing. In the next screen, the return that you filed, it will populate. So the system will bring back the values for that VAT return that you filed, and you would be allowed to go in and correct whatever line you want to make a correction to. And when you finish, you would click the Save and Continue button. On this step, we would enter our amendment details. And the first thing that you are asked to do is to select a reason for the amendment. And the next thing, you're supposed to enter an explanation for why you are amending the VAT return. Now those two are required fields. You notice there's red asterisks next to them, so you have to pick an option and enter something onto those fields. And under that, there's also an option to upload documents. And like I mentioned before, to say you should upload the support for the amendment there to speed up the processing of the amendment case. Then you would click the Save and Continue button. And you would be brought to a confirmation page, which allows you the opportunity to review the amended return values and make sure that you changed everything you needed to change. And then finally, you would check the declaration to say that this amended return is correct and complete, and you would click on the Submit Return button. And I gave another summary here in case somebody wants to screenshot it or take a picture of all of the steps. You can do so. Okay, so this is, the next slide is our website, inlandrevenue.finance.gov.bs, and I encourage you all to visit the site. There's a value-added tax menu with a lot of helpful information, so I encourage you guys to check that out when you have some spare time. Okay, now I'm going to open the floor for questions. No questions? Okay, thank you guys so much for your attention.
Please give Bishop some ground another hand. That sounds like we have no mistakes and no errors when it comes to VAT filing. That sounds like a plan. Now, the one favorite thing I always like to go over while we get set up for the next presentation, I love to ask this question. What do you pay your VAT? Let me see how many viewers are actually paying attention. What do you actually pay your VAT? Is it your business license or is it your TIN? What do you actually pay your VAT on? Is it your business license or is it your TIN? It is your TIN. See, most persons believe it's the business license, and because of that, what you'll find is you'll have a sole proprietor that has 10 different businesses. Each of those businesses only making $10,000. So when we come to them and say, sir, you needed to register for VAT, they'll be like, why do I need to register for VAT? Ain't none of my business making $100,000. But then what they don't realize is, if this lovely lady in the front is a sole proprietor, and she got 10 businesses, and 9 of those businesses making $999,000.99. And out of one business, happen to get a penny or a dollar. What it does, take it straight over the 100,000. So that means all of those businesses under that TIN have to now register for VAT and charge VAT. And you have to all make sure you have a nice electronic system in place to calculate it for you. So a lot of persons get mixed up with the fact that they say, but my business ain't making 100,000, but it's not just the business, it's all of the businesses that are under a particular TIN. Now say these two lovely persons sitting right next to each other decide, you know what, we could be a partner. We could partner up together. So now she has a sole proprietorship and she has a partnership. So now that partnership has another TIN. Now, if the partnership is only making $50,000, does she pay VAT? No. But she will continue to pay VAT on the next year. Now, these 4 lovely people in the front end decide, you know, we're going to get together, we're going to have a nice limited company. And that limited company makes $500,000. She could try to hide everything under that partnership because she knows that ain't any mess. And the reality, though, you would still be paying VAT on that sole proprietorship because that's over $100,000. The partnership is less than $100,000 because that's another TIN. And the limited company is another TIN. So now when you consider about your VAT, you can't just think about the business. You have to look at the fact, if you're a sole proprietor, how many businesses do I have? And collectively, are these over 100,000? Because a lot of people feel like, well, I got Danny's Chicken Shack, Danny's Shoe Shine, Danny's Hair Weave Glue, Danny's Stockings, and everything else at the end of the day. But ain't none of these making 100,000. But when you sit down and you collectively look at it, all of them are good. So please share that word. Because I want none of my colleagues coming knocking on your door saying you gotta pay your VAT. And you be like, but that chicken I sell you is so good. Yes, ma'am, but that chicken I add you with that $1 and take you right over the limit. You ready? All right. So our next presenter is Michelle Barton. She's going to speak to you on the wonderful world of business license renewal. I just get excited thinking about business. Money, and more tax, money. Give her a hand, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, good night, everybody. I am Charlie Barton, Registration Supervisor at the Department of Inland Revenue. My presentation today is just going to give you an overview of how you should renew your business license. I know there are a lot of questions out there and how to navigate the system. So I'm just going to guide you through the renewal process because we are in the renewal season. All right, just some important dates. I want you guys to make sure to pay attention. All annual business licenses expire on December 31st. This is all annual licenses. All licensed and carrier business should renew before January 31st. Okay, so all renewals as of now should have already been in. If they are not submitted in, you are subject to a late filing fee that will be applied as of February 1st. All right, our scale sheet has not changed. Anywhere from 0 to 100,000 of your turnover, you are exempted. 100,000 to 500,000, you are based on a 0.5%. 500,000 to 5 million, you are at 0.75%. Anything over 5 million is at 1.25. Temporary licenses, which are only provided for foreigners, are 1.5%. Occasional licenses are $25, and as of July 2023, there was an occasional license for public entertainment that goes up to $750. Now, public entertainment is any business or any concert. If you're bringing in an artist, this is the license you must retrieve from the department, and that is a price tag of $750. That needs to be in before the event takes place. If it doesn't, you are subject to have your event shut down by authorities. All right, renewal process for business licenses. Anything over 250,000 to 4.9 million, you are subject to an accounting certification. Anything over 5 million, you must provide us with audited documents. So basically what I'm saying, if your turnover is under 250,000, we just need you to put in your renewal. There's no requirements needed. Department is now focusing on the revenue. We are not the regulators. We are only interested in your revenue, your turnover. So there's no requirements for any businesses under 250,000. All right, I'm just going to walk you through the process of our online administration. Once you log on to your tax administration, you will click here to the Returns tab. Once you click on the Returns tab, you're going to click File a Return. Once you get to this screen here, you're going to choose your tax type as the annual actual, and the year should be 24. Now, if you get to the screen and you don't see this option, you need to send us an inquiry in the inbox, because then that means you did not have a 24 business license with the department. All right, once you select that and you hit Start a Return, once you hit Start a Return, you're going to click Save and Continue. You're going to save and continue again. When you get to step 3, you're going to click View Details. This here is going to show all of your licenses. Now, if you're a taxpayer and you know you only have 1 license, but you see their duplicates, we had an issue, we had a challenge at the beginning of the year where persons were seeing duplicates of their licenses. You must remove the licenses and only leave in your 1 license that you have left. If you have multiple licenses, take your time while you're removing them, because once you remove them from the front end, we don't see them in the back end. All right, so be mindful. If you're a person, you have 5 businesses and 10 show up, you know what, you are only to remove 5 of those licenses. All right, so once you do that, you click Change. Once you get into this option, the only thing you are actually filling out is your actual turnover. Now, this is what the business would have made in the year 24. Remember, we are in 25, so we're filing for the previous year. So you are now confirming to us, this is your actual turnover at the end of the year. Once you enter in that turnover, you'll hit Save. You'll be back to the same screen again that shows your licenses. If you have multiple licenses, you'll do the same process again. Click the Change. Once all of that is in, then you hit the back button. You go ahead to back to the license details screen and just give you an overview of what you would have submitted. If there were any fees calculated, you would have seen that on the last on line 9, indicating as your tax payable. You'll hit Save and Continue. If you are persons over 250,000, you would then be required documentation. You would upload that documentation there. Save and Continue. You will then click the declaration and you will hit the Submit button. Now, that is only the first part of the process you have done for your business license. Business licenses comes in 2 folds. You give us an actual, and then you give us an estimate. An estimate is your prediction, which you're thinking you're going to make for the year 2025. All right, so once you complete that actual, it will give you a green check mark. You're all good to go. And then we'll go back through the process again. We'll go back to the Returns tab. Now we'll be selecting the annual estimate, the year will be 25. All right, once we get here, then you click Start a Return. We hit Save and Continue again. Save and Continue. And then once we get here to this screen, I want us to pay very close attention to this screen. Once we get here to this screen, we are to click Add Details. Now, if you do not see this screen coming up as you're doing your renewal, you need to contact the department, because somehow, somewhere, we did not issue you a 24 license, because you might have had a fee due, you might have had an outstanding return for some years. This is where you need to contact us so we can get your system sorted out. All right, so once you click Add a Return, it's going to be a pop-up. It's going to ask you load from previous, and you want to click that Yes button. Okay, once you click that Yes button, you're going to, it is very familiar with the screen again. You're going to hit Change, enter in your estimated figure that you're going to estimate for that year. Now, this is just a prediction. We're not tying you to this amount. This is just what you think you will make. And I want you to think big. Okay, we like to see the big numbers. So once you would have indicated your estimated turnover, you would go ahead and save, and you would get back into the screen, you would hit back, you would click save and continue. If you have any documentations, you can drop it here in this box. You would then click the declaration page and you would submit your return. Alright, so you have filed I have walked you through how to file your business license renewal for 2025. Alright, and remember the dates again. The deadline was July 31st. So if you guys, I don't want you to be shy, still put in your renewals. We have not started to charge as yet, but there are charges in place, getting ready to go. So we ask you guys to please put in your renewals. The department is here. We are not afraid to assist anybody who needs assistance. If you still have issues navigating the system, we are here for any questions you have. I'm going to open the floor if we have any questions. Sure.
If someone...
Oh, wait, one sec.
Good evening. If someone has or had a business license and they're not operating that business and they did not go in to say, well, I'm no longer utilizing this, are they billed from the last business license? Or
Yes.
once they can say, well, or if they can show that they weren't operating, are they still charged?
Yes, you are still charged. We base it on the last license you would have in our system. We do have some certainties in place. You know, some person may be ill. If you have assistance from the doctors or you're ill, or someone might have been incarcerated, once you bring those documentation to us, we then waive you that fee. But anything else, it is as long as you have a business license with the department, it is by law that you are subject to renew your license every year.
So can you discontinue?
You can, what?
Can you discontinue?
You can discontinue the license, but it has to be brought up to date and then you can cease it.
Okay, thank you.
Relocation. Relocate to another island or somewhere.
Okay, if there's a relocation, now relocation to the Bahamas Island, or you're relocating to the United States? Okay, well, everything is online, so there's really no excuse to put in the renewal. Like I said, if there's the only circumstances that the department is waiving the fees, like I said, if you're ill, and you can prove that, or if you're incarcerated. Everything else, everyone is subject to the renewal.
Good evening. What happens in the event if you remove your business license, the wrong one? I know there's duplication sometimes. You said you can remove. What happens if you remove the wrong one?
Okay, once how the system operates, once that's removed, and the process goes through, you are then issued only that one license. Only when you contact us to let us know that you're missing the license, we then have to go into the back end and put that license back in. So it's kind of a bit of a lengthy process to get it done, but it has been done where persons have gotten it done.
Good evening. So if I currently have a business license and I want to add someone to that, how is that process done?
Okay, you're adding a partner?
Yes.
Okay, alright, so you will get the documentation for the partner. The partners, you're now giving the partner rights, so you now need to get your training approval to board that includes you with the partner. You're also going to get the other regulatory letters because now everything now is to show you and the partner together in the business.
So it's basically starting over again. You're reapplying for a business license in the same name.
Right, but everything now has to come with both of your names in it.
Okay.
Once you get all those documentations, you can just submit an inquiry on our system. You go to the inbox, you click new message. Your subject is going to be change of circumstances. You just indicate the owner of the business would like to add so and so on, and you upload their passport, their NIB card, and all the documentation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
With the occasional license for public entertainment, how is that classified?
It is So doing the occasional license process, where you should click the tax type, there's an option there for occasional and temporary. You will click the occasional, and on the form itself, it asks you if you're doing a public event. Once you click that button as public event, that indicates to us that you have a fee of $750. There's also an application that you would have to fill out on our website. It's under the VAT tab, under forms, and in section is form number 41. So you would go in that form, fill out that form, upload that form, because the form asks you how your ticket sales are, what's your price of your ticket sales. All of this, the form gives the details, so we would know how, if we now have to get VAT involved. You might be now over $250,000, and now VAT may now have to get involved, and you may have to now charge VAT on your ticket sales.
So it's just a ticketed event. Because what I'm trying to do is understand what the Regatta's Festival is coming fall under this.
No. As it relates to Regatta's Festival, no it doesn't. Those are still street vendors, street and food vendors, those are still 25. This is in relation to if you're having a concert. If you're bringing in
they charge an entrance fee into the site, it still falls under that.
Yes. Yeah, because that falls under the association. I think the government has it listed that we don't charge those. If we just charge if you're bringing in an art, if you're having an artist, even if you're having a Valentine event and someone's singing and you're charging me a price, that's considered a public event.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any more business license related questions? I have a YouTube question. This is for filing actually. The person is asking why do they have to file back for both the annual actual and the annual estimate?
File is BL.
That's the BL.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, the annual actual, we call that the block. That is the actual amount you have made in the previous year, and the estimate is considered what you anticipate to make. So both filings are required.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Okay, this question is for the property tax. Now, there is a lot of talks that eventually family islanders will have to pay real property tax. Is that so?
At this time, no.
Come to the podium.
Do we have any more questions?
That's a question.
This regarding property tax also.
Hold on.
Good evening, this is regarding property tax also. If you got a home and it's already fully paid for, do you still pay property tax on that?
If it is paid off, depending on the value of the property, you will be able to receive your satisfaction from the bank, but taxes still accrue every year.
Of the total of what?
It depends on the value. If your property is valued $300,000 as an unoccupied dwelling, you're exempt.
Okay.
Anything over $300,000, you're taxed at 0.625%.
Okay, thank you.
Is that Nassau and
That's Nassau. In New Providence, yes.
I just had a question for the forecasted business license, the income. What if somebody just puts a ridiculously low income? Is that vetted or that just goes through as it is?
It goes through as is. We take your word for it. If you put in $1 million, that you're going to say you're going to make $1 million, you're estimated, you will also pay on that $1 million as well.
What if
If you go down, that is perfectly fine. Remember now, this is just a forecast. Yeah.
And then I have to pay the difference on the
Yes. That's correct. So I mean, it's good to forecast, but it's like how the system operates. In most cases, whatever your actual is, you should also put it as your estimate, and then that works. That rolls in as a credit when you come now to renew. Thank you.
Okay, real property tax. What if I have a home in Nassau and I have a home here and both of them are over $300,000? Would I be exempted on both of those homes?
No, ma'am. You'll be exempt. Now, one thing we try to differentiate between owner-occupied properties is that you cannot reside in two places at once. So if you have a home here in New Providence, and you do not live in that home, we would class them as a residential property, meaning that you will be fully taxable. However, on the island, you will be fully exempt on that owner-occupied property.
So my clone can live in two houses?
Yeah.
Good night. Okay, my question is concerned with VAT. What if you didn't register for VAT, let's say from 2020, and you registered in 2023, is it correct to say that you're paying back VAT? Let's say when they're charging from 2019 to 2023?
Repeat the question.
But yet you registered in 2023. But they're charging from 2019 to 2023?
Yes, if you had a business you were operating for that period?
Correct.
In 2019, yes.
But even though it wasn't registered for that?
Yes, we could backdate the registration to allow you to file for those periods.
But how would we know we have to go and register for that?
You will know when you reach a certain amount of turnover. It's supposed to be at 100,000, you're supposed to register within 14 days of meeting that amount.
Let me give a different clarity on that. Doing the business license renewal, if we see that you've been consistently over 100,000 for all those years, we then, departments talk, and we notify VAT. So then VAT goes and does an assessment on your account and backdates you from how long you've been giving us at 100,000. So then you will have back to file.
Okay, like he was saying, we are not paying for the business, right? But yet we're paying for the TIN number. That's what he said?
Correct.
Okay, so at that time, if you didn't have that TIN number, so why would you charge me for back pay?
Based on, but it's still based on that 10 turnover amount. Remember now, you always, when you get a license, you always get a 10. A 10 is a universal thing, so no matter if you're a VAT registrant or a 10 only and a business license holder, that 10 still applies to all of the licenses.
On residential, it won't be residential, it's rental. On rental properties, how would you pay revenue on that? Are you supposed to pay for that?
Yes, ma'am. If you have a multi-purpose property, let's say you have 3 units on one property and you do not reside in any of them, you will be taxed at 0.625% on the total value of that property.
The total value of the property itself?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Even if it's under 300?
Yes, that's totally different from being an occupied property. However, if you reside in one of the units, you will be fully exempt on that one and taxable on the other 2.
Could I add on to that for me, please?
Yes.
What if you have a property and you live in one, let's say it's a 3 unit, you live in one, your child lives in the other. Do you still pay property tax or you consider that as a rental?
What will happen is you'll have to let the office know that you reside in one and your child resides in the other. You will have an assessor take a look at that and you will have to claim your exemption by filling out an affirmation form for both properties to claim your exemption. Okay. Other than that, we would know that. Yes.
Yes, do you tax the foreigners who rent their homes for large amount of money? If you do, how?
Yes, we do. We have short-term rental properties where they pay annually.
Y'all got all of them?
Pardon me?
Y'all got all of them?
Yes, we're getting them. How can you help?
We need the money.
Yes, we do.
Please, any other questions? Don't take the time, the opportunity to ask questions now. Don't come rouse tomorrow and say, you're not a chance to ask questions.
What if I have 5 units or more? What is that considered?
We class that as a commercial property, meaning that none of it will be exempt.
Even if I live in one?
If you live in one, you get an exemption, but the other 4 units will be taxed in one.
Next question. Let's say I'm a foreigner and I'm booked for like 3 months, then I say, okay, I want to stay there for another 3 months. How do you know if you're between a guest or I want to stay at the property? If I own a property and it's rented for like 4 months, and for the next 3 months I say, I want to start living on this property. How do you investigate and know if it's true or they're just trying to run a name on the system?
Usually with foreigners, they should have an investment board approval, which would state the purpose of that property. If it's for rental purposes, we would tax them at a commercial rate, but if it's for their own occupied development, we charge them.
No, it's online. We know it's rented. But I'm saying, how do you tell me whether it's a rental client or the owner is on the property?
Let me make
What do you police?
Okay, well, as foreigners, they get taxed regardless, whether they're living in it or whether they're renting it, they get taxed.
Property tax, I'm talking
Yes,
about.
sir.
But the business part of it, how do we get that?
But with the business part, short-term rentals now are being forced registered for business license, VAT, as well as with property tax.
Okay.
All right, so we do have a comprehensive system that gives us all the Airbnb information, the VRBO, Booking.com. I can't remember all of them. We do have a comprehensive system that's given us figures of rental and how frequency the rental is. So we have a section that deals with short-term rentals as it relates to forced registering and for business license, VAT, as well as with property tax.
What if someone is not registered?
Registered for which tax type?
What if someone has a house, is not registered for Airbnb, but they are still renting it as Airbnb, but they have the code that it is their living property? Like I have a house, just say, but every, 6 or 7 months of the year, I rent to friends, they got to pay me to stay in my house, but I'm not registered with Airbnb. How would you know that they're actually doing stuff like that? Well, we have a lot of tourists doing that.
Okay, well, this is now the time for the town homies. This is the information we need from you guys to let us know. So you can visit the department and you can give them the information, and there can be further investigation done with that. Ms. Yvonne who chairs the office, you can give her a comprehensive report, and she can then investigate them.
Yeah, because they raping us.
Right.
Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, I am excited about this.
Okay, regarding that, has there ever been any consideration to have all businesses just registered for that?
Repeat the question, please.
Has there ever been consideration to have everybody, people under the threshold, also register? Sometimes you find a lot of people who aren't registered for that. They probably making that 100,000. And they have registered.
Yeah, it's optional for people that make under the 100,000, but there are benefits for people to be registered, because if you're not registered and you're not able to make claims for the purchases that you make, So it's in taxpayers' best interest to register voluntarily, even if you don't make 100,000.
Is it possible, you know, like when we travel into the state, they ask for home address where you want to so when you go to the States. Does that happen when the guest comes from wherever they come from, in the Bahamas, they give an address of where they're going to stay? Can you track that part of it to say that they're staying in a certain house as a rental?
Person.
I just want to know. Yeah. Because that would be a way for you to know they're staying in the Airbnb, and you know it's not lawful for them to be there by owners.
Well, the system that I talk about, the comprehensive system we have, it came from the Ministry of Tourism. So they are indicating to us, you know, as persons come in, the popular places they always go, the island they go to. So we do have the comprehensive reporting. We're just going through it to make sure we mind every island and account for every person that comes.
Okay, let's say I purchase some goods from her, right? But she's not registered with that. But on my spreadsheet, I have to state that I get some goods from her, right? So if she ain't registered for VAT, so I can't go to her to make sure she registered for VAT. But can I purchase?
We can.
You understand?
What was the question?
Okay, let's say that I purchase some goods from another vendor. But the vendor who I purchased the goods from, but they are registered for VAT, right? So, you know, there's the best way now to find what the person is not registered for VAT there. On my spreadsheet, I have, okay, for example, I put Sonia's. I put Sonia's name on it, and I said I purchased a good for like $5,000, but there's no VAT. So who's responsible to pay the VAT? So who's responsible to pay the VAT?
Only the VAT registrants are supposed to pay it. The VAT registrants, they charge it to the persons that they sell, but you're talking about the purchase side of it. Yeah. We do things like that where we would look at your list of purchases and we're able to match it from the other side to see what the other person purchased. So we're able to look at both taxpayers and compare the information.
Because when you look at it, they said they're making the money, but yet they ain't paying VAT. But a small man like me and whoever else, we paying the VAT. So, but at that time, this person sitting on the side here might be making 100 plus, but they ain't paying VAT.
Yeah, but the way how you should look at it is you're collecting VAT as well. It's the government's money, so you would be paying less because the VAT that you collected on your purchases, you get to deduct that, and you would keep that. So that's how you have to look at it. You're able to get, it's a benefit for you being registered because you're able to reduce the amount of VAT that you have to pay to the government because of the amount that you purchased from.
So now you're looking at my side, right? But you're looking at this person.
No, we look at everybody.
So you're looking at this person's side. You want this person. Oh no, this person wants this business. You're registered for VAT.
We look at them too.
Pardon?
We look at the persons that aren't registered as well. And we can force register them if we see that they're approaching the threshold. Right. We have compliance teams that go out and they have special projects where they will do forced registration.
I'm trying to think about it, I would talk to this person right there. Oh, the trash show, the thing will be like, we can see you tomorrow. We can be right back there. You just need to let us know so we can show up on you downstairs. Let me see how you get us now. Now, see, I got to pay you for it. I have to come to you first, then I can go to them. You have a nice question?
Another thing too, I want you to look at too, you talk about the next person, you buy it from them. How much persons buy from them? Is it just you or is it more persons?
More than one person.
Buying the same amount, buying the same value?
And y'all know they were, and y'all ain't done us.
And that's the other one going
investigate, and like Ms. Johnson said, when they get their VAT filing in, they also correspond with business license to make sure that the registration is done through VAT as well.
What she's trying to explain, right? Let's just say I'm not registered with any business, right? But I'm purchasing stuff like from the States, and I sell it wholesale to different people. What she's trying to explain is, how is it that when she put in her return, she's paying VAT on what she purchased from me, and I don't even have a business license? How would you deal with the next person? How would you know? Once she states that she has to state where she actually got her products from.
Yeah, because she would have to bring in her invoices. Also, too, now, we are under the Ministry of Finance, which also is Bahamas Customs. So we also have access to that files as well to see the goods coming in and to see the monetary value of the goods coming in. So I don't want you to think that they're getting away. The customs at the border. So if customs now sees that the business now is bringing in over $1 million, they now ask this business now to bring in a tax compliance certificate. They also ask them to bring up business license, and this is where they now go and assess and let us know that, hey, this business is bringing $1 million worth of goods. I think y'all need to go now and visit them in compliance to issue them a forced registration for value-added tax and also backdate them.
Okay, so it would start at customs. Customs would be tracking it from there.
Yes, custom, the VAT department, value-added tax. Custom also gives them a comprehensive report as well that gives them detail of the imports that comes in the country.
Okay. One, two. So if they already paid this VAT to customs when they brought the products in, and they're selling it to me, why I have to pay that on it again? Is what she's trying to ask. That's the VAT.
VAT is based on consumption. You pay to import the good, and then you also pay to consume the good. So me, as an importer bringing it in, I pay VAT at the border. Now remember now, as the importer bringing it in, I can get my VAT back in my returns. And then I sell it to you, and it's a consumer tax. So you then now charge me VAT on the consumption.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but I just want to piggyback on what she's asking and ask the person that she is purchasing from. That person should have a TIN number, that she should have gotten a receipt from that person.
That is correct.
And in her filing would have that person's TIN number.
Correct.
So you'll be able to identify who that is.
Yes.
And let me just throw this in there. If you're purchasing from someone that's charging you VAT, you one, have the right to ask them to see their VAT certificate and their business license. And if they can't show those, they cannot charge you. And you can refuse to pay the VAT if they don't have their VAT certificate or their business license. And then report that to us while you're telling them that. Okay? So, no one can force you to pay VAT. No, I'm saying this because a lot of persons have this mix, so they feel just because a business charges them VAT, they have the right. No. First of all, you have to have your VAT certificate where it can be seen. And secondly, you have to have your business license where it can be seen. And if they aren't showing those to you and they refuse to show you, then they cannot charge you. Because when I go into my barber and I check his business license, I make sure that's up to date before I ask him about it. Before he cut my hair, after, just making sure. Any other questions? He was a good job me that day. Boys, make sure my haircut was straight first.
Okay, if you go back on the from 2021 to present time, right? You know you have an input of VAT and an output of VAT. So if you go back from that year to that year, and you've given me a figure, that figure should show me a breakdown of what I paid minus what I paid from that minus what I put into that. That should give me equal to what I should be owing. Like how would you back down? You do the breakdown, input, output, and then you pay the balance.
Correct.
So if you go back from 2021 to 2023, I should have a breakdown of what I paid or what I lost.
Yeah, you should have your records of when you purchased from vendors. You could even go, if you have an account with them, you could just go to them and ask them to print you all of the purchases that you made since 2021, and we would allow you to make that claim, so you would be able to deduct that from your output.
Small business that doesn't make over 250,000 is not liable to pay back, right? How I go?
Businesses under 250,000, you just don't have to give us any documentation when you're renewing for business license. Nothing to do with VAT. Once you hit the threshold of 100,000, you should be a VAT registrar.
Okay, so when you go for your license, y'all want to see what? A summary of what you had made within a year?
If you're over 250,000? If you're over 250,000 or you're under?
Under.
Okay, if you're under, we don't need any summary. If you're at 100,000, you should have that summary already because it would be in the VAT filing. You would be doing VAT filing, so you would have those.
I mean, I won't make that one day, but I'm making that one.
You can make it.
I claim that this ain't, let me get this one, they clear on air, right? This tax money is not mine or Department of Inland. This is the government, who is all us. This ain't my money, this is our money. Any other questions? Say that again for her. People. But seriously, thank you so much. Any other questions for me? Please, again, like you say, take the time, the opportunity to get your questions answered tonight while you have the opportunity, please. Don't ask me what about anymore. See that look inside your heart. Can I help you there? All right, ladies and gentlemen, please give our presenters a hand, please. Thank you so very much. As we started our session this evening, I would just like to say, if you do have any questions, please, we still have our client services persons still to the back, as well as the ladies are going to be here at least for this evening. At the same time, please enjoy the refreshments that we have at the back for you. Have some nice drinks, and we'll close the evening to see where we open it, just with a quick word of prayer. Father, we thank you for your grace and mercy, O God. We thank you for those that are here. We thank you for those that came. We thank you for the information that was shared here. We ask you to protect everyone as they leave this place in this building this evening, O God, and continue to guide them by your grace. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you for those that tuned in online, and we'll be seeing you for another session as we visit our islands. So have a good evening.